Hello, everyone. Once again, with Smoke and Jesse. This is the strongest confirmation yet that XRP is currently integrated into the banking system. That said, we're going to jump right to Smoke. What do you have for us today, sir?
Appreciate the invite again, back, Max. Ideally, by the end of this presentation, every viewer that's watching this should have a clear understanding that XRP is currently integrated and set to be used inside the traditional and highly regulated banking system that processes trillions of dollars every day. This integration, of course, is powered by ISO 2022 and Ripple's Interledger protocol. All of this is fully documented with zero speculation. The evidence supporting this will be presented today for everyone for their own eyes and for you to objectively judge this evidence for yourself. This is likely a first of its kind revelation. In the years that I have following crypto research, I haven't seen this connection laid out anywhere else personally. And I would be eager to see a similar video providing the same level of insight of how XRP is used inside the banking system without theories or opinions. But some of these topics will get technical, of course, but we'll try to keep these explanations as simple and easy to understand as possible for new and experienced investors in this space, so they can follow along and understand how and why XRP is positioned for use within the regulated financial system. And of course, I will keep everything as verbatim as possible to these documents to eliminate speculation, eliminate any misinterpretations. And I'll just start with sharing my screen with you guys. First, to begin this topic, we have to first have a quick crash course on the Interledger protocol and ISO 2022. Here it says, generally, blockchains are not compatible with one another, meaning they are unable to share data with one another. For example, Ripple developed the Interledger protocol for connecting different blockchain protocols and traditional digital ledgers using common interledger addresses. Moving on, the Interledger protocol is a web protocol for routing payments across independent networks. It is a technology approach which has never existed before. That's important to remember. Its purpose is humdrum but enterprise critical, which means large financial institutions, corporations, businesses, Interledger protocol meets their needs. And it meets their needs by delivering the payment speed and certainty necessary to service high volumes of all sizes and types of payments, making these cost effective for customers, providing a profitable mechanism for financial institutions, specifically for banks. Remember that, for banks. In theory, the ILP provides the same benefits as other blockchain systems, including the certainty and auditability of transactions. ILP proponents claim it adds advantages that traditional blockchains cannot offer, such as scalability, privacy, and interoperability. Moving on here, it says, since blockchain has become more important than ever, the isolation between different blockchains has caused an issue that cannot be ignored. Ripple first proposed Interledger protocol in 2012, which can be seen as the earliest appearance of cross-chain technology. Moving on, the RippleNet, which is the primary solution for Ripple to enable the use of XRP as a liquidity solution under their cross-border payments strategy. It is underpinned by the Interledger protocol. Very few people know this, and it connects and coordinates all the ledgers under RippleNet. Moving on here, Ripple's Interledger protocol. This is confirmation that it uses Ripple's internal cryptocurrency, XRP, to facilitate transfers. This is confirmation if you did not know that. Moving on here, for the visual learners, this is what the Interledger protocol looks like connecting to the XRP ledger. As you can see right here, it says the Ripple XRP main ledger, just a payment channel which allows Ripple transactions to scale to trillions of transactions per second. This is the Interledger protocol geographical representation of corresponding Interledger protocol nodes. And moving on to here, this is the XRP ledger network across the country of France. It's an example of how the XRP ledger is currently distributed across several countries at this current moment, integrated into their infrastructure. And moving on to here, this is another lesser known fact about Ripple and Interledger protocol represented in this diagram here, where it says Ripple is evolving into the Interledger protocol. And there's a reason for that. The current Ripple network would not be the same without the Interledger protocol. Banks may use Ripple and this protocol to benefit from infinite scalability and total transaction secrecy. This is important because banks need a protocol that can scale to hundreds of transactions per second to up to trillions of transactions per second, because that's the high velocity and high speed of the movement of money that banks deal with on a daily basis, and also total transaction secrecy. That is a common concern that people raise about banks using public blockchain technology, but with the help of the Intelligent Protocol, Ripple can help banks utilize cryptocurrency technology and public blockchain technology with total transaction secrecy, which is why banks prefer to use Intelligent Protocol. Moving on, it says here, Ripple's research team understood this paradox when it realized that the world will never agree on one ledger, yet the XRP ledger is itself a ledger. To overcome this paradox, Ripple developed the open source Intelligent Protocol that synchronizes separate ledgers without creating a separate ledger. The Ripple ledger changes name in the XRP ledger to stress the importance of the XRP asset, further contributing to market-making efforts for XRP. Conversely, many of Ripple's technological solutions now rely on the Intelligent Protocol more than XRP ledger per se, which is why this diagram says Ripple is evolving into the Intelligent Protocol. Moving on to here, does XRP have interoperability? While XRP itself is not inherently interoperable in the same manner as the Intelligent Protocol, its design and Ripple's initiatives promote interoperability through strategic collaborations and integrations. Ripple actively advocates for interoperability through IOP, leveraging XRP in some solutions to facilitate seamless cross-border transactions. Although XRP operates within the Ripple ecosystem, its interoperability extends beyond the Ripple's network. Partnerships and integrations with various financial institutions and payment platforms harness XRP's utility, enhancing cross-border payment efficiency and accessibility. Moving on, the Intelligent Protocol is another significant development in the space, offering a standardized way to route payments across different ledgers. This protocol can potentially create a truly interconnected financial system where value can flow freely between different blockchain networks and traditional financial systems. Now, here's a connection between Ripple's Intelligent Protocol and ISO 2022. Additionally, the ISO 2022 standard for financial messaging is being explored as a potential facilitator for blockchain interoperability, providing a common language for financial transactions that could bridge the gap between different blockchain networks and traditional financial systems. More on the connection between Ripple's Intelligent Protocol and the ISO standard. Here, so there are several ways that are being explored to make distinct DLT networks and frameworks interoperable. Common interchain messaging protocol. The emergence of a common interchain messaging protocol, either based on an ISO standard or emerging from a dominant framework application, would greatly facilitate the development of interoperable networks. Projects in development that attempt to define a specification or build a working implementation to facilitate cross-chain communications include data sharing and value transfer, which include Ripple's Intelligent Protocol. This is another connection between ISO 2022 as a standard and the Intelligent Protocol. And here's another piece of evidence that further reinforces this relationship. Standardizing processes across different blockchain platforms ensures consistency and reduces complexity. This includes adopting common data formats, for example, ISO 2022, and interoperability protocols like the Intelligent Protocol, facilitating easier integration and seamless data exchange between systems. And as we can see here, ISO 2022 and Intelligent Protocol are two halves of Ripple strategy for the integration and scalability of the XRP asset. Moving on to just briefly confirmation of the compliance of XRP as a cryptocurrency. Here it says recent developments show that cryptocurrencies are beginning to adapt the globally recognized and established ISO 2022 standard for the exchange of financial messages. This move can be seen as an attempt to improve interoperability with traditional financial systems while increasing acceptance and trust in cryptocurrencies. And as you can see over here, cryptocurrencies that rely on the ISO 2022 standard include all the grade 8 ISO 2022 compliance tokens. And these currencies use the standard to improve their compatibility with the traditional financial system and enable seamless integration, resulting in faster transactions and greater acceptance. XRP as a compliant the ISO 2022 compliant token, that's key in this entire presentation. So remember that. And here is just confirmation that if you did not know that these 8 tokens were chosen for a reason, and that reason was to address the shortcomings of the Swift network. And it says here in the highlighted portion, there are platforms that have a niche market to be covered by the shortcomings of the traditional Swift system and have been enhanced with the inclusion of ISO 2022. And this includes Ripple. And In the second highlighted portion, it says, with their RippleNet and the use of blockchain technology and APIs, they offer a faster and cheaper cross-border payment system through their XRP token. And the last highlighted portion says, therefore, more will be heard about these initiatives and projects as the migration process to the ISO 2022 standard progresses. Moving on. And even here, this is confirmation directly from Standard Chartered Bank that Ripple as a XRP as a token is ISO 2022 native. It says we see a very large number of payment service providers native on ISO 2022 and also quite a lot of coin providers. And they cite XRP specifically. Moving on to here, further confirmation in a more elaborate way how XRP is going to benefit from the ISO 2022 standard migration. A new global standard, ISO 2022, is replacing the old Swift messaging system. This upgrade enables banks and payment systems worldwide to communicate seamlessly with rich data and instant settlement. RippleNet, powered by the digital asset XRP, is fully compliant, allowing XRP to act as a bridge currency for fast, low-cost cross-border payments. Moving on. This takes us to the entire point of this presentation. This is directly from the website of the International Finance Bank. This is a elite bank for high net worth individuals and corporations, and a trusted offshore. They provide trusted offshore banking and wealth management solutions. And down here it says International Finance Bank has been the trusted choice for sophisticated investors, successful businesses, and growing companies since 2005. So just to show that this is a well-established bank. Here further confirms how well-established this bank is. They have over 5,000 clients. They're a fully licensed bank, and it even shows a specific banking license that this bank has. They have 20 years of a proven track record, and they have a global reach. Moving on. Here, IFB Bank Interledger Protocol Gateway and Complementary Payment Rail. Here it says ILP remains the cornerstone of IFB Bank's cross-ledger strategy. It furnishes conditional cryptographically bound transfers that settle in seconds while honoring the segregation of our DMG connector from the core ISO 2022 ledger. Yet the modern payments landscape is polyglot, which means that there's many different languages spoken between banks, between financial messaging services, which is why the ISO migration is so essential at this moment, so everyone can migrate to the same language and speak and share the same data between each other for cross-border payments. Moving on, it says, it says clients may require rails optimized for specific corridors, liquidity profiles, or regulated jurisdictions. Below, we enumerate not only the NANICL ILP specifications that clients must follow, but also the principal alternative mechanisms, each already available, piloted, or scheduled on our roadmap, together with the prudential or technical rationale for their inclusion. So remember to keep in mind the alternative mechanisms, each already available and piloted or scheduled on their roadmap. And below it says, one of the specifications of the Interledger protocol, it has an internal conversion to ISO 2022 PAX 008 messages. And here it's convenient that RippleNet's payment object carries payment instruction details governed by the RippleNet payment object standard, which uses the ISO 2022 PAX 008 messages as a standard. And even on their website, one of the alternative mechanisms that is available for this bank to use is RippleNet/Xcurrent, the API-based ledger bridge. And here it says RippleNet's Xcurrent suite provides bilateral messaging, FX quote negotiation, and settlement orchestration. Many banks deploy it as a lower cost alternative to traditional correspondent bank ways, such as Swift and other regular services to transact cross-border payments. The next highlighted portion says why this bank maintains compatibility. Certain Latin American and APAC counterparties are Ripple native, and ILP integration would duplicate efforts. So instead of being a RippleNet customer, they can just adopt the Interledger protocol, and any bank that's already on the Interledger protocol or Ripple native, they'll be able to easily transact with this bank with XRP as an option. And it even lists why RippleNet has a regulatory edge, and it says because value can final settle on the XRP ledger or in fiat via Nostra Vostra accounts. And moving on to here, it even tells you directly on the website when exactly XRP is utilized as an option. In this decision matrix, it says which rail when. And it says that they choose the ILP when multi-asset streaming, micropayments, or programmable conditionality are paramount. And below it says they choose RippleNet when counterparties are already Ripple native, or when XRP liquidity confers FX advantage, or in simple terms, when XRP provides a cheaper, more cost-efficient advantage over other options. And even here, it even breaks down these options of the navigating, how the bank navigates the different payment pathways, and even the scenarios in which XRP is utilized. And even if you go down this list, you can see why XRP would be a optimal payment solution, as it says right here, compared to the traditional options. And as we can see above, the ILP is one of the first options which utilizes XRP. Swift GPI Instant is not much of a improvement on the regular correspondent banking system. Neither is SEPA Instant or RTGS Global, while RippleNet and XRP below offers a liquidity advantage for Ripple native counterparties. And even below, there's another connection that most people aren't aware of either, is Mojaloop, and that you can see right here. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, in partnership with Ripple, developed an open source software that is designed to provide a reference model for payment interoperability. The software for Mojaloop is based on Ripple's intelligent protocol that allows fast transactions in a secure manner. The main idea behind this design of the software is to serve as a national payment switching system. So there's the Ripple's intelligent protocol, Ripple's RippleNet, and Mojaloop, which is based on Ripple's intelligent protocol, which is three of the options that can be selected as an optimal payment solution. And just to finalize this fact on why the IFP Bank adopted the intelligent protocol, says the IFP Bank has adopted an intelligent protocol to provide a seamless, near real-time bridge between external payment networks and our internal ISO 2022 settlement infrastructure. Here it describes what the strategic playoff is. By situating ILP at a segregated middle layer, embracing modern connector tooling, imposing strict credential hygiene, and yoking each procedural step to authoritative instruments, NIST, which is quantum security, ISO standards, CPMI, Basel compliance standards, DORA, FATF 16, and even EU sanctions laws, IFP Bank offers clients a cross-ledger transfer compatibility that is simultaneously state-of-the-art, regulator compliant, and operationally resilient. Settlement times collapse to near real time, yet prudential safeguards remain uncompromised. So this is major confirmation that Ripple's intelligent protocol is quantum security compliant, Basel compliant, DORA compliant, CPMI, and compliant with EU sanctions law, which is a major segregator of the Ripple's ILP and the XRP ledger compared to other cryptocurrency solutions. And even here it says, by supplementing ILP with Swift GPI Instant, SEPA Instant, RTGS Global, RippleNet, and Mojaloop, plus forthcoming CBDC and tokenized deposit rails, IFP Bank furnishes clients with a menu of rigorously governed pathways. Each rail is matched to explicit prudential references, ensuring that whichever option you select, the underlying settlement mechanics remain consonant with global regulatory doctrine and IFB's own commitment to operational resilience. Now, when it comes to Ripple native counterparties, I think you should be aware that Ripple already has a stronghold on the global financial system in several different ways. The first way is that RippleNet already has 90% global FX coverage. So foreign exchange pairs, 90% of that is already liquid to XRP as an asset. And here, this says that Ripple deals with 100 banks, including some of the biggest tier ones in the world. So we already cover over 80% of the world's crucial trade corridors. So even on the banking sector, when it comes to IFP Bank making transactions with other global banks, if they're already Ripple native or on the intelligent protocol, there's an 80% chance that they will be able to use XRP based on this global coverage of RippleNet based on their partnerships. And even moving on to here, why should you care as an investor? Collecting input from ISO members and financial experts is vital, he says. The committee must consider issues from policy, legal, central authority, and technical security standpoints. These standards could, at a conservative estimate, affect up to $1 trillion in digital transactions per day. So security is vital. So this is the integration pipelines that ISO compliant cryptocurrencies are positioned to be integrated into, pipelines that process trillions of transactions per day, ISO compliant cryptocurrencies. And just to finalize it, this presentation here, why should banks care? Because Ripple plans to use XRP to solve the liquidity problems. And even below, it even directly cites Basel III compliance as something that XRP can help facilitate banks with being compliant with. And below, it even exposes the entire big plan on when exactly XRP is going to be used. It says here that Ripple's big idea is to use XRP once its market cap gets high enough and it is being traded heavily enough to provide banks with liquidity on demand. So just going back to this navigating payment pathways diagram, once XRP's market cap is high enough, this option, which is clearly set and integrated into this highly regulated bank, XRP will be used as a liquidity advantage for Ripple native counterparties, which, as we just covered, Ripple already has a 90% coverage of the global FX market and 80% coverage of regulated banking infrastructure.
Wins. Flawless victory.
Jesse, before you jump in, because we definitely want to hear from you, there was a couple things that were shown in the documentation from Smoke. Now, on an earlier slide that you had, Smoke, one of the highlights, literally highlighted in yellow, mentioned value, capturing that value. And we've seen this slogan that's existed for many years now, how Ripple is the internet of value. So again, pounding that home about the value. Another thing I saw that was interesting on that list, whether it was Basel III and so on, there was, you didn't mention it, but it was on the screen, and I don't expect you to mention everything. It mentioned NIST. We talked a lot about interoperability and so on. A lot of people in our community are going to mention things like Quant. Some people talk about Axelar and whatnot. Jesse has obviously covered that as well. But NIST has existed for decades. And NIST, believe it or not, even with my own research, is part of ISO TC 307, and that's Quant Network Standards. So at every single area of focus here in the outline, ladies and gentlemen, we see that Ripple has covered all of it when it comes to full interoperability and those integrations. So it's interesting to see the documentation and, of course, bring it to you guys once again. But, hey, I'm not going to do all the talking here. I want to hear from Jesse. What do you think about some of these new developments, especially this thing about this international, right, bank? Take it away, sir.
Yes. Thank you for having me with Smoke Dog. Oh my goodness. Always bringing the receipts. Listen, it's just, my goodness. Like, I don't even know where to start. I was just taking some notes here. My goodness. So we see ISO 20022 being created 2004, and Smoke showed that on his X page recently. It's being created the same year that Ripple was created. What a coincidence, right? Well, the first beginnings of Ripple. It wasn't called Ripple at the time, but literally same year they're created. And like I said before, because the ISO, you need that standardization, like Smoke was saying. Like the messaging needs to be standardized. And the reason ISO 20022 was created is to guarantee Ripple's success. And it's all about saving the central bankers from this liquidity crisis. They're losing control. They need to fix this liquidity crisis to keep the control. And there are many different things that, me and Smoke and you, we talk about our channel. But if you see here how it was saying, I'm just looking at my notes, it was saying how the interledger protocol would be used for multi-asset streamline and programmable conditions. Well, when you're going into the like smart contracts and everything, like every transaction eventually is going to be programmable. I mean, everything's a smart contract. And with Quant bringing the programmability so they can program money, I mean, like, people need to understand the interledger protocol and XRP are going to be used to settle anytime you're going from anything of value to something else of value, any type of asset. It's just, it's mind-boggling. And XLM will play, a small role, but I think for me, XLM might get, 5% of the pie. Then we saw the interledger protocol, how it was, I don't know what the wording was, but it was saying that the interledger protocol could literally connect and provide interoperability. And it meet the guidelines for the CPMI, the IOSCO, and the PFMI, I think. So the CPMI is the Committee on Payments Markets Infrastructure, coming from the BIS. The BIS is the Bank for International Settlements. This is the central banks for all central banks, my friends. Okay, and the CPMI, like I said, is the Committee on Payments and Markets Infrastructure. And the other organization they mentioned there is the IOSCO. Oh my goodness, and you can't even imagine the video I did on the IOSCO. I was very hesitant to publish it in fear for my life, to be honest with you, because the IOSCO, you're always seeing them produce papers with the CPMI, which is, again, is an organization, the Committee on Payments Markets Infrastructure for the BSI, the central banks for all central banks. Now, the IOSCO is the International Organizations for Securities Commission. Like, I can't remember the exact wording, but it's the International Organization for Securities, which the SEC is connected to. So the securities, so the Security Exchange Commission in the US collaborates, of course, with the IOSCO, because that's the International Organization for Securities, on how to meet the global standards and how they could, like how they need to get the regulations in place for these global stable coins. Now, I showed a document. I did a 30-minute deep dive, a document coming from the IOSCO. That's one of my videos I was so excited about. It took me like maybe 15 minutes to calm down, because I had remembered about a document I had found years ago before I started my channel, where the IOSCO is giving an example of a private company creating a global stablecoin. Okay, and this global stablecoin would be backed by numerous accounts globally, where the biggest financial institutions in the world would hold financial assets, financial instruments that would be backing this global stablecoin. And when it describes this private company and how this global stablecoin would be used as a medium of exchange, and how they would provide liquidity, and basically it just describes Ripple to the T. To the T. It's unbelievable. Everything Ripple does, everything XRP does, everything the XRP ledger does, the CBDC, everything. And we see how the World Bank and other major institutions have talked about XLM and XRP being a global stablecoin. So I just want to make everyone clear here that the Interledger, this document that he just showed, talking about the CPMI and the IOSCO, there are other documentations coming from the IOSCO, which is the International Organization for Securities, talking about global stablecoin arrangements. And people need to understand, when they talk about stablecoin arrangements, technically this is the wording that they're using instead of saying global stablecoin. So my document, my video showed how they were literally communicating, planning on how do we set the regulations globally, because they were saying like they're saying we're using a hypothetical case study. And they said in the hypothetical case study, we would have a private company issue this global stablecoin. No. And like I said, it was all about Ripple. It's exactly what Ripple is doing to the T. And many financial institutions globally would hold assets that would be backing the value. And also what was crazy is that they were specifically saying that all of the assets that would be held globally in by financial institutions, the value of all of these assets globally would be equal to the value of the tokens in circulation. So you're literally seeing this global stablecoin being backed by all the assets. Just mind-blowing. And then David Schwartz anyway, so that's the IOC. So and this was in 2017, I think, 2018, this document came out, the same year that the SEC is suing Ripple. So like, that's why I always said, like, this lawsuit's a big sham. They're literally suing Ripple, but at the same time, they're planning regulations on how they can make this successful. How to make these global stable coins, which are a medium of exchange, how to make them successful. So, and the other point he talked about was RippleNet. It talks about 100 banks. I just want to mention this to everyone, okay? Because a lot of people are not realizing this. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say this. 7 years ago, Ripple said we have 200 banks connected to RippleNet. First they said 100, then they said 200. This is 7 years ago. I wish I could find a clip of Brad Garlinghouse that I saw 7 years ago where he says we have 200 banks connected to RippleNet and we're connecting 5 banks per week. Then he said we're connecting 6 banks per week. They had 200, they're connecting 6 banks per week. He admitted 7 years ago. 6 banks per week, 52 weeks. That's literally how much I said? 6, it's 312 banks per year at that rate. And this is 7 years ago. So that's 2,100 banks at that rate. That's without counting, them connecting into CLS and connecting into Swift and all that stuff. But just individually, at that rate that they were connecting, just bank individually, they would have over 2,100 plus the 200 that they originally had. So when they kept on their website, oh, we have 200 banks connected to RippleNet, I just want people to realize and to remember what I'm telling you. They admitted they had 200 7 years ago, and they were connecting 6 banks per week at that time. So that's 2,100 banks. When people see them on the news right now and Brad Garlinghouse saying, oh, we have 200 banks, 100 banks, 200 banks, all this verbatim, it's complete BS. They have like 2,000 banks connected just one by one, plus Swift, plus the fact that they're the unified ledger. They are the shared ledger. They are the regulated liability network. I've proved that in my video. They're using 5 different words instead of saying XRP ledger. Like the XRP ledger and the interledger protocol is the new layer. Like we always say, this is the internet of value, my friends. And people are underestimating the potential value of XRP. Not financial advice. We're not financial advisors, for entertainment purposes only. Should have said that. I think people are going to cry. Just my opinion. But people who are sleeping in XRP, I think there's a good chance they're going to cry, unfortunately. And I don't know, man. Like, I could go on and on and on. Like, this is, again, confirmation. Because the interledger protocol provides interoperability between any payment system, any payment networks and payment systems. So Quant's a bit different, where Quant provides the interoperability between all the legacy systems, like data systems and software systems and so on, so that we can move the old world and bring it to so Quant allows the whole world to connect to multiple blockchains at the same time and create what are called multi-chain applications. So you're building the best features of each chain and building a multi-chain applications. But when it comes to settling the transaction and you need liquidity and you're going cross-currency or cross-asset, again, that's where the XRP ledger is crucial. That's the internet of value, and Quant's the internet of trust, because Quant connects everything that exists, the legacy systems that all of the different companies, everything that we use today, regardless of the industry, is trapped into legacy systems. They all operate on legacy systems. So Quant allows the old world to move to the new world and build these many different types of applications for every use case. And when it comes to settle and you need the liquidity, you need XRP. That's the shared ledger, the unified ledger, the Finternet that Gilbert Verdian always talks about. And he said, we partnered with R3, who's bringing the shared ledger, where all of the tokenized assets will reside. He's talking about that internet of value. And then he talked about the Finternet, how Quant, he mentioned in one of his expos, how Quant brings programmability and interoperability to the Finternet, the financial internet, the internet of value. They're using a different word. Instead of saying internet of value, they're calling it the Finternet. So Quant is the internet of trust, and XRP ledger, interledger protocol, is the internet of value. So yeah, but I can go on and on for 9,000 hours, but I don't. So just spit any question you want at me or smoke.
So I have an announcement to make that I want to get into. And before I do, I want to respect also Smoke's time. Smoke, do you have anything more you want to add based on what Jesse just shared?
I would just say that I would add on that when looking at the payment decision matrix of that bank, that's a good way to understand why ISO compliance is essential in these cases of cryptocurrency being integrated into regulated banking payment flows, where XRP is chosen as a compliant option. It's not any random cryptocurrency or Dogecoin, because Dogecoin is not compliant. It doesn't have the same utility as XRP. So XRP, along with other ISO compliant tokens, are well vetted, well looked into and researched companies that are living up to the most stringent and most strict global regulations. And that's why XRP is chosen as the only cryptocurrency based option on that payment decision matrix from IFB Bank. And I think that's just the reason why you shouldn't downplay ISO compliance, as that's the reason why XRP is an option to be used once the time comes for cryptocurrencies to be used for cross-border payments.
Also, I want to add, because I forgot to say that a lot of people don't realize, but to my understanding, my research, Ripple is the only blockchain company that is on the standards setting body and the governance body. Can't remember the exact name of the governance body, but they are the only ones on the governance body for the ISO 20022. Isn't that interesting? isn't that interesting, guys. Come on. And plus, they were created, Ripple was created the same year, like I said, as the ISO 20022. Like, you can't make this up. Like, you can't, and people, oh my goodness, don't even get me started on the people that are saying that, oh, Ripple's a scam coin, it's not going to be used. You should only look to Bitcoin, that is like trillions of dollars in market cap already with very little use case. Listen, I'm not trying to crap on Bitcoin, but it really frustrates me when we have tokens, because like I said in my recent interview, I said, listen, Bank of England, which is one partner of Ripple, just one central bank, does more volume than Bitcoin does in a whole year. A whole year, my friend. One central bank. There's 170 to 180 central banks in the world. Just one does more volume in one day than Bitcoin does in a whole year. And it's going to use XRP to settle transaction. So when people say that Ripple can't go past $10, I'm sorry. I don't mean this in a bad way, but what are you smoking? Like, what are you smoking? Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't say that, but you haven't done your research. If you think Ripple cannot go past $10, you have not done your research, my friend. If Bitcoin can go to trillions of market cap, and Ripple is going to handle the Bank of England and all the other central banks combined, when a central bank does more volume than Bitcoin does in a whole year, how can you say that XRP is not going to go past $10? It's people are going to miss the opportunity of a lifetime. I feel like crying for them. This is why I'm so direct. It's not to criticize, just my frustration is coming, and people are going to miss the greatest opportunity in a lifetime, in my opinion. Not financial advice.
Well, guys, we definitely have more. We want you to tune in. We have some special research we're going to get into in regard to the next segment. I know it's a lot to take in and so on, but be out on the lookout for that, especially with Jesse mentioning, quote, global stable coins. So we're going to jump more into and elaborate a little bit more about that with some actual documents. So stay tuned for that. Again, hopefully we earned your like, your subscription, and so on. Give these brothers a follow over on their platforms. Jesse can be followed over at Apex Crypto Consulting NFA on YouTube. And also, he's on X. Obviously, Smoke can be followed over at SMQKE DQG over on the X platform. If you want some of that premium content from him, check out the Smoke Room. Saying goes, know what you have, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. We really thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys on the next one.
See you guys.
How would you like to earn an extra $100, $200, or even $500 a day, even more than that? I have many friends that are earning money every single day trading futures on BTCC. It's a simple process, and even if you don't want to learn how to trade, you could follow a trader on the site and let him do the trading for you. But I suggest learn how to trade, earn you some extra money on BTCC. It's easy, you don't have to KYC, and you don't have to use a virtual private network VPN. This is a wonderful site. They've been around since 2011. Give them a shot. Also, when you earn that extra money, you can store that on your Decent wallet. The Decent wallet was not affected by the recent XRPL debacle, where the backdoor of many wallets was open and there was a breach. So Decent wallet was not affected by that. Decent wallet is as safe as you keep your seed phrase. It's a wonderful product, and you can get the discount by using the link. It's the only way to get the affiliate discount, and that is to use an affiliate link. So that link is popping up on the upper right side of your screen, and it is the one that you will use. You will also get free shipping. Pick you up a Decent wallet today. Secure your assets. If you don't have them stored in a wallet and sitting on an exchange, then you're at risk. So pick you one up today. Thank you.